Hey everybody, and welcome to Sunday. I'm glad you're with us here on the show. Busy couple of weeks, been on the road the last few weeks. 2 weeks ago, it was spring break. And then this past week, I was in Germany with Mercedes. Had a chance to drive the AMG GTR Pro on the track on the Nürburgring, and the video will be out tomorrow. Also, on the same trip, had a chance to drive the new Mercedes-Benz CLA. There's the CLA there. So there's the GT, and there's the CLA, and the CLA is one of their best-selling volume cars. So that video, because all of the different waves have to go through and get a chance to drive it, it's embargoed until the 17th. So that's a week Wednesday. So the video's done. I actually edited it today, but it can't be aired until the 17th. So that'll be coming out. There will not be a live show next week because I'm going to China for the Shanghai Auto Show, and that should be kind of interesting. So I'm leaving this coming Saturday. Also, a couple of other trips coming up. I'm going to get a chance to drive some of the Porsche Panameras in Ontario for one day. Then I'm going to Norway to drive the Mercedes-Benz EQ. That's their first all-electric SUV based on the Mercedes-Benz GLC platform. So that's going to be very interesting. They're holding it in Norway, obviously, because Norway has about 50% of their vehicles are electric there. And speaking of Porsche, going to be at the end of May going to Austria to drive the Cayenne Coupe, which is the sort of sleeker looking version of the Porsche Cayenne. So that's some of the stuff that's coming up. All right, let's get into what's happening with the question and answer. So first of all, Mario says, hey Zach, your honest opinion, what's better, the Accord hybrid or the Camry hybrid? These are both great choices. I think that you have to give the advantage to Toyota. They have been producing hybrid cars. Both companies have been for a long time. But Toyota has been much more successful with hybrid technology over the last 20 years. And if you're going to go with tried and proven, I think that's the way to go. Here's the thing is, you drive both and see which one you like. The Accord uses different kind of technology to power the vehicle. They have what's called a dual motor system, where the Toyota system is much like all their other versions. What I can tell you outright is that I prefer the hybrid Camry over the base 4-cylinder with the 8-speed automatic. I just think it's a better car. So try them both and see what you think, but I'm leaning more towards the Toyota. Bab says, hey Zach, my new RAV4, the new RAV4 is not selling well as the old model according to Wards. It's volume down 8.4% in the quarter. What's going on? I can tell you here in the Canadian market, it is the best-selling SUV in the marketplace. So if it's down 8.4%, it probably is because they're still selling off any of the last of the models. You got to remember, the vehicle just arrived in dealerships at the very end, like the last 2 weeks of 2018. So yeah, we have to wait probably more than one quarter to see what's happening. But what I can tell you is that overall car sales in the US are down generally. So to have it down 8% or 5% or whatever it is compared to a year ago might not be a total shock, but there also is probably a bit of the population that's waiting for the hybrid to come, and that won't be happening until the next month or so. So there's a few things going on there. Don't read too much into very early numbers. Aaron says, hey Zach, I love the Jeep brand. Why would they use an ESS engine for the new Gladiator off-road truck with 4% extra fuel economy? I don't know what you mean by ESS, designed for a Prius. Thoughts? I think what you're talking about is the mild hybrid system. I think that's what you're talking about. I'm not sure what you mean by ESS. Could you jump in again and let me know? If it's mild hybrid, it's got nothing to do with Prius. Nicholas, hey Zach, since we signed the Paris Agreement, sooner or later there'll be a federal incentive for buying EV. The Liberals are currently looking at $5,000 rebate. What do you think? Well, they announced it in the budget. It's not a think, it has been announced. The issue we have is that the federal rebate is for $45,000 and under. It's not a blanket $5,000 rebate for any new electric vehicle. Excuse me. So that really limits the number of vehicles that you can buy in the Canadian market. These are Canadian dollars. at $45,000 and under. For example, you can buy a base model Leaf, you can buy a base model e-Golf if you can get one before the new ID cars come. It won't catch most of the bolts and a lot of the other vehicles. So yes, you get a rebate, but it's very, very limited. This is good news for provinces in Canada that had no rebates. That's basically 8 provinces and 2 territories. Basically, it's British Columbia and the province of Quebec. The good news is, from what I understand, it's stackable. So if you were going to get a base model Leaf, for example, at $36,000, you're going to get $8,000 off in Quebec and maybe another $5,000. That makes a pretty big number. Russ Freed says hello from New York. Hello back. Zach, how does insurance work for automotive journalists like yourself? Is it covered by the car manufacturers? Yes. It's especially true here where I live in the province of British Columbia. I live in BC, so when I get a car, it has to have, unless you see one of the cars in the videos that I do that have Ontario plates on them, it's slightly different. But the cars in British Columbia, it's the car that covers that carries the insurance, not the individual. So whoever insured that car, if the car was in an accident, then that insurance covers it. It's not my insurance, it follows the car. So that's how it works. Here's the other thing. Do you know that how car companies insure their cars if they're to get in an accident and not written off? For example, I had a car parked in front of my house. A truck went down the street and went down the side of it, okay? Scratched 2 doors and a fender, took the mirror off too. So the car company doesn't call up an insurance company and say, hey, I want to make a claim. They self-insure. They fix them themselves because they have the advantage of they can fix them and then sell them. So they don't actually take collision insurance, they self-insure. My favorite name, DJ Pleasure Seeking Missile, is coming on board here. Good evening, Zach. Since you've driven the new Mazda 3, do you think it surpasses other compacts, including the Golf? I would say yes and no. I think that the interior is hands down the best in the business. Styling is subjective. I don't love the look of the hatchback. It just kind of leaves me a little cold. It's like it's trying too hard. And I never would say this, but I think the sedan looks better. But yeah, it's an interesting looking car. I think the engine with its output is good. It's not great. The lack of independent rear suspension in the Mazda 3 is very interesting. I've only driven it for the one day when we had a chance to drive it in California when I did the review. I'd like to get it back, and that would be a good comparison, I think, to do, is like a Mazda 3 hatch and a Volkswagen Golf, because the Golf still has independent rear suspension. We'll see when they update it if they go to the same torsion beam design that they did with the Jetta. So getting rid of independent rear suspension in the Mazda 3 isn't a total loss. It actually works very, very well. It just isn't as lively as the old car. So yeah, it certainly is winning when it comes to interior fit, finish, and refinement. Styling is up to you, and the drive is much more polished. It's so quiet. It's so much more refined. It's a great commuter car. I need to get it back to really, live with it for an extended period of time to see what I really think. But yeah, that would be a great shootout, the Golf and the base model, similarly powered Mazda 3. Hello from the Ukraine. Hey, you're up late. It's late or either early, one or the other. Like I think it's 2 in the morning. Hey, Paul says, hey Zach, I'm getting a good deal on a Volvo XC90 Inscription. Should I wait for the 2020 model that's coming? Are the changes worth waiting for? I don't really know much about the changes. Here's the thing, I will be in Shanghai for the auto show basically a week from now. So if I missed something, forgive me, but I haven't heard of anything yet. But if you're not in a rush, it's always a good idea to wait because here's what you can do. When they have the last of the existing model and a new model arriving, that's when you get the best deal and the best selection. So if you really like the changes, you can get the new one. If you're motivated by price and you want to get the older one, that's the best time to do it. But I don't think there's going to be much earth-shattering when it comes to anything because the interiors are the same throughout the Volvo family. The engines are the same, so there you go. Is the 2016 CRV a great buy in 2019? Well, it's up to you to decide whether you like the car and you need to drive it to see what you think. The CRV is what I call the Swiss Army knife of utility vehicles. It does everything well. It doesn't do anything particularly great. I'm trying to remember what year the 1.5 liter turbo came in. Off the top of my head, was it 16? Yeah, I believe it was. So yeah, there have been some issues with that 1.5 liter turbo. One of them is that the engine doesn't heat up quick enough to get the cabin warm, and it's affecting some fuel getting into the oil. So that's something to consider. So yeah, it's up to you whether you want to buy one or not. There's nothing wrong with the packaging of the car. It certainly is a great design, functional for everybody. Also drive a 2016 RAV4. They're both pretty good choices. I lean towards the RAV4 only because it doesn't have a CVT. John says, hey Zach, will the 2020 Mazda 6 have all-wheel drive too? With the turbo. Yeah, I would probably lean towards that. I mean, if they're doing it with this new Mazda 3, and you see brands like Nissan doing it with Altima, if they're really committed to investing in cars and keeping cars alive, it's easy to do with the Mazda 3 because it has so much popularity already. But the Mazda 6 is a car that just doesn't sell. So yeah, it's certainly something they could add. Grit says, Subaru Ascent or Kia Telluride. I haven't driven either of them. I've only seen them. I've only sat in them. I've looked at them. They're both great looking vehicles. I think Kia and Hyundai introducing these full-size utilities, they've done a fantastic job. The Kia in the Canadian market is not inexpensive. I think it starts around $44,000 or $45,000. That's expensive, considering, you know, they're a value brand, but they're having a sort of premium features on the inside. I am going to get a chance to drive the Hyundai in May or early June. I think it's actually in June. So yeah, I have to wait until I drive them. You look at them on paper though, with that 6-cylinder, and it's a big vehicle. I have to wait until we drive it. Fatir says, GTI or Civic Si as a daily, which one is more reliable long-term, 200,000 kilometers? Are either of these really worth 10,000 over the base model? Are these cars over the base model of cars with a manual transmission? Well, if you're doing a 200,000 kilometer long-term value story, the Civic Si is the way to go. They have a proven long-term track record. It is, both of these cars are certainly worth it over their base model equivalents. I think the Si is the perfect car in the Civic family. The R is just, you know, it's a great driving car. It's not really, I mean, you could drive it every day, but it's really not what it's designed for. I don't like the regular hatchback. I don't think it's a good looking car. And the Civic Si sedan with the manual transmission is just wonderful. Now, are you really going to keep the car for 200,000 kilometers? You might say that today, but do you really think you're going to keep a car, you know, 10 years and put that many kilometers on it? I don't know. But both are fantastic cars. If you're going to base it sheerly on reliability, then the Civic wins. Yeah, and they are worth it over. If you're going to keep a car for $200,000 and you're going to pay more for it, and you're going to keep it for that long, just think about what you're paying extra per month, and it's really nothing over that long period of time. You're going to probably, if you're going to pay for the car outright, you can't calculate it that way. You have to think about it as like, per month, what is it extra costing me to drive the Si or the GTI over the base model for that long a period of time? It's certainly worth it to get the better car. What's your opinion of the Volvo T6 engines with the Polestar upgrade? I haven't had a chance to drive one. I've only just driven the regular T6. And the T6 is good. It's not, it's kind of hard to describe. It comes on with a whoosh. It doesn't come on with a snap. And that was one thing about the S60 that I drove. I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't as invigorating as I thought it would be. It was very good, but not like wow good. So yeah, maybe the Polestar upgrade is the way to go to get that little bit extra snap. Ideas on the Outback 2.5, any good? Excuse me, sorry. hey, this car has been around a long time. The Outback has amazing resale value. People who own them love them. They do a great job. It's a good all-rounder. It's never going to be a performance model, especially when you marry it to a continuously variable transmission. This is a vehicle that is definitely function over spirited driving. It's got a smooth and quiet ride. It feels much more sophisticated than you typically get in a traditional SUV because it really is a station wagon that's had cladding and raised up the suspension. So you get much more of a car-like ride, and I actually like that. I like station wagons. So yeah, give it a shot and see what you think. But no, it's not going to be an invigorating car to drive in any way. It's going to be practical. Hey, Zach from Quebec. Hope all is well. Mazda 3 for the all-wheel drive, thinking about winter driving and the nice work they did on the quality side. Or the GLI MQB, the GLI MQB plus the engine and limited differential. Well, you're talking about you're talking about a car that has, independent rear suspension now with the GLI. You're talking about the upgraded engine that certainly has much more power than the Mazda 3. And you live in Quebec and you know exactly what it's like to live with, an all-wheel drive car and without. And I think a GLI with properly equipped tires would certainly do the job. And I really do like the new GLI platform, like the MQB, and the size of the car. I'm not sold on the Jetta, the base model Jetta styling, but I think the GLI is a much better take on that car. So you're talking about uprated engine, differential, and independent suspension. If you can afford it, the GLI is certainly worth a look. Hey, Zach, what's your opinion on the current GTR? I've never seen you review it. I drove the car when it first came out, and I got to tell you, it's got to be one of the most boring high-performance cars I've ever driven. It drives like an appliance. It just does everything for you. I mean, it's basically a tech-laden car. It's all about technology. It's all about being able to do everything for you, and it just left me cold. I had it for a week, and I didn't ever connect with the car, and I really couldn't wait to give it back. I mean, every time I see a GTR, I just think it looks like a kind of like a Japanese Mustang. And for me, I would much rather have a Mustang. Way more engaging to drive. Mustang GT with the performance pack with 400 and what is it now, 60 horsepower. Yeah, it's not all-wheel drive. It doesn't have that sort of precision feel of the GTR, but that's not what it's all about. Driving a high-performance car often is feeling everything, and you don't get that with the GTR. Does the RDX still lead mid-size SUV? In the mid-size SUV category, I'm not sure if it is, it's actually not a mid-size, it's compact SUV. So in the premium compact space is certainly one of them, but I still think, are you asking me, oh sorry, I understand what you're saying. Does the RDX still lead as the better midsize SUV? Like, in my opinion, is it the one to beat? It certainly is the one that you should try. I mean, if you're looking for bang for buck with the horsepower, the 10-speed, the super handling all-wheel drive, the fit and finish on the inside, the styling, it really is, I think, the one to beat for your money. Now, if you can spend a little bit more, there are other vehicles you could get. You could get an SQ5, you could get GLC 43 AMG would be a hell of a car to drive. But yeah, if you're just looking for the best bang for your buck, it certainly is hard to beat. Accord, Hybrid, or Insight. It comes down to whether you need a compact or a mid-size car. I think the Insight is one of the better looking cars that Honda's come out with over the last little while. And it really is a nice car to drive. I didn't do a video on it, and I'll tell you what happened. I picked up the car like on a Monday, and then Tuesday morning I flew out of town and I was gone most of the week. I got back, I was jet lagged. I didn't really feel like doing a video. I drove the car for the weekend and I took it back on the Monday. But I got to tell you, I was very impressed with the car. I was impressed with the way it drove. I really liked it. I just didn't have any energy to do a video, and sometimes that happens. You just run out of steam. But I was very impressed with it. So it comes down, it's the same technology graded for the different size. So decide which one you like for size and price and shop accordingly. Oh, sorry. So Aaron is writing back, electronic start and stop engine. So he was talking about the new Jeep and should it have electronic start and stop engine. All manufacturers are doing this because you've got to remember, when they do the fuel economy tests, they take all of the tools in the toolkit and make them standard. So auto start stop, eco mode when you start the car, other things that they can do to tweak the fuel economy, having the transmission go up to the highest gear possible for fuel economy. This is all done for the test. And how the test is done for the EPA in the United States and subsequently here in Canada, it's how the vehicle starts. Like when you turn the car on, the default setting for the car is how they test it. Excuse me. So you can't have it like, okay, so the auto start stop feature is off and the eco button isn't on and you've got it in sport mode. No, it has to be the default setting. So what the great thing is about a lot of these things, and I can't remember if it is able to be overridden in the Jeep, and I suspect it is because most cars it is if you don't like the start and stop of the engine, switch it off. And so there you go. But typically it's on automatically for that fuel economy rating. Hey Zach, I'm your fan. Would you please help me choosing between Pilot and Atlas? Love Honda, but Atlas space and sheer American look is impressive. It is pretty hard to beat when it comes to space. It's huge. Hey, if you want sheer American look, if you can find a last of the Ford Flex, and you want lots of space on the inside, and if you can get it with a 3.5 liter EcoBoost engine, what I think it's 365 horsepower, that thing goes like a rocket and has tons of space on the inside and has, you know, a classic American look, but that's being discontinued. So you have to weigh off all the benefits and negatives of each. So the Pilot, proven reliability, has the cylinder management to turn off some of the cylinders when you're driving for better fuel economy. It has either the 6 or 9 speed. I prefer the 6 speed, and it has a functional, useful interior. The Atlas, on the other hand, has an older technology engine, 8-speed automatic transmission, and the thing is, yes, it has more space, and it really is the king when it comes into interior volume, rear seat room, all of that kind of stuff. But that older VR6 engine is hard on fuel. So, are you willing to pay more for the fuel of the Atlas? Definitely consider it. Now, then you get into the long-term reliability and how long you're going to keep them for. Honda's definitely going to have an advantage there because they have a proven track record. The Atlas has only been out for, 2 years now. Basil, so you need to try them both and see what works for your family. Both are good. The good news about the 3.6 liter VR6 engine is it has been around forever and is proven to be a very bulletproof engine. I have a 16 Civic EXT Coupe. The transmission bearings wore out. Honda Canada said the transmission and differential should be replaced and they won't cover it under warranty. What should I do? What should I do? Well, if it's out of warranty, it's out of warranty. I'm not sure what else you can do. You know, if it needs to be fixed, then you need to get it replaced. How far is it out of warranty? You can ask, and you can call Honda Canada, their customer service number, and ask for, you know, if there's any goodwill, if they'll exchange to you. Typically, if the if the car is out of warranty by a few thousand kilometers or a few thousand miles, they'll extend goodwill. That's something you might want to find out. Also, you might want to find out if there has been any kind of recalls or technical service bulletins, TSBs, issued on this particular issue in the car. I don't know, but that's where more homework needs to come in. You need to go on Honda Civic forums, find out if other people have had this. Maybe if it has been you know, a situation for many different buyers, then maybe there could be a class action that's mounted. There's lots of different ways to do it, but typically working with them, finding out if there's any extra coverage. I don't know how far you're out of warranty. Hey Zach, looking to lease a luxury SUV, 2 kids, and want the convenience of a third. You want a convenience of a third kid or the third row, I'm guessing, for small trips. Looking at the XC90, but lease rates great on MDX. What about the RXL? The RXL, no, it's too small on the back. What they did was they just sandwiched the third row seats in the RX. You know, the RX is a fine product. They sell, that's their best seller, but I don't think it's a true third row. I think probably The MDX is going to be certainly a choice for you. It has the older dash in it, but it works fine. My wife Andrea and I did a review of. There's a review of the MDX on right now. Just came out a few weeks ago, so I encourage you to watch that. That car is going to do everything perfectly well. It's going to deliver, good reliability. It's proven resale. It's going to work for everybody in all three rows. They have the new A-Spec, which certainly looks better, and you're going to get a vehicle that is going to do the job. Now, the XC90 is certainly a wonderful looking product. In my opinion, I don't believe Volvo is there when it comes to reliability. I don't see the same kind of, put it this way, every Volvo I get seems to have one quirky little thing with it, usually electronic. So yeah, MDX is not a bad way to go. Hey, try the RX with the long wheelbase. Not the long wheelbase, because it isn't. It's just an elongated version, and see if it works for you. I think it's too small. All right, let's get to... Let's jump in ahead here. Do you think it should sell the Jetta with 4Motion? Wouldn't be hard with MQB. Well, I think these are tools that car companies have, right? Think about it. I heard somebody was telling me that the Sportwagen is going away from Volkswagen. I am going to China with Volkswagen Canada next week. And I'm going to dig deep on Thomas Tetzlaff from Volkswagen Canada to find out about all of these things. I heard that's the case. But yeah, these are tools that they could add into their arsenal at any time to help move sales. Hey, if they see a real diminish in Golf and Jettas selling incredibly well in the United States, by the way, and they need to add 4Motion into it, well, it's certainly something they could add. That's what Mazda's done with the Mazda 3. They went through, the sales have gone down a little bit. It's time to inject something into it. Let's put in all-wheel drive. So these are things that certainly could happen, but I don't hear any plans for it. Pierre Lambert says, how are you doing? Great, nice to be here. A little jet lagged. I was in Europe for 4 days and one night flying overnight, so I was gone for 5 days on European time. Now I've come back, so I had a cold for 2 weeks too, so yeah, sorry about that. Okay, Basil says the mileage on his Civic is only 50,000 kilometers. Well, if it's 50,000 kilometers, you're under the kilometers for your warranty, which is 60, but you might be over in terms of time. You certainly have a case to go back to them and ask for goodwill in the warranty. Carmen says, hey, Zach, great show. What do you think of the new F-Pace SVR coming soon? Carmen from Montreal. Well, the SVR cars are certainly exciting from Jaguar. They make some great things. Haven't driven it yet, but, if you're into power, that's... a vehicle is getting towards the end of its run and is going to be redone, and that car has been out for 3+ years now. So that's sort of like a special edition before they introduce a facelifted and updated version of it. But yeah, why not? There's lots of high-performance SUVs in the marketplace, so why not for them? My issue with Jag and the F-Pace has always been the interior to me, and I think that's probably what they're going to work on. You've seen it on the Land Rover / Range Rover side, and they're going to introduce much better interiors. Antoine says, best EV between e-Golf and base Leaf, 70 kilometers a day in Quebec. What are the best winter tires? I'm thinking of putting studded hacks on. Love your work. The best winter tire is the Hakkapeliitta, hands down. If you're wanting the best winter tire and if you can put studs on in an area that allows it, and Quebec does, yeah, and there's no question that you're going to get the best traction. Now, base model EV between an e-Golf and a base Leaf. I like the e-Golf because it has more rear seat room and more trunk space. The Leaf is kind of disappointing. The back seat's kind of small and the cargo area is kind of small. My advice is the same, and it has been over the last few shows. If you are not in a rush to buy an electric vehicle, do not buy one now. Wait. Within the next 2 years, there's going to be so many new electric vehicles coming onto the marketplace. For example, the e-Golf is being phased out. By the end of this year, they're going to introduce the first ID cars from Volkswagen, which are going to have much greater range. They claim they're going to be of a similar price. So why not wait to get the newer version of whatever that is? So for the North American market, we're going to get the Cross or the SUV. In Europe, they're going to get the regular ID, which is a Golf replacement. And shortly after that, they're going to bring out more and more. So that ID will probably come as well here to North America. So yeah, if you're not in a rush, please just wait. Time is on your side. And for many people, my advice is if you're going to buy something that is electrified, it doesn't need to be purely electrified. Plug-in hybrids are the way to go. Hybrids right now are the way to go. Plug-in hybrids are the next step and really the best solution for most people. You can drive on electric power for most of your commute and have that extended range when you need it. But going pure EV right now, I think is a bit of a false start because there's going to be so many more new vehicles coming. You buy that new vehicle and 12 months later, a brand new version comes out. Where does that leave you? So many new products coming. Looking at a used summer car, Z4, S2000 or Miata, I need 3 pedals in a convertible. Am I better to wait, save a bit more and get a Porsche? No, not really. These are all fantastic choices. I think that if you're looking at something that's going to hold its value, Porsches certainly do. I think the vehicle that of those 3 that will hold its value the best will be the Honda S2000. They're getting harder and harder to find, and the price premium is going up. If it was me, if it was those 3 cars, I wouldn't pick the S2000 because the S2000 is a high revving engine. It has no bottom end torque, is not satisfying to drive in the city. The Z4, you're getting into a lot of maintenance with a used BMW. The Miata, all day long, MX-5, best car for your dollar. Absolutely. You can pick a number, 10,000 bucks, and you can open up a search and look online and you'll find so many of them out there. There are lots of Miatas from lots of different eras and lots of different generations to choose from. So if it was my money, I certainly would buy an MX-5 Miata, and you can keep saving. And when you go to sell it, you're going to get most of that money back as these things hold their value incredibly well. And if you only drove it in the summer, over a few summers, you're not going to lose that much. And if you have the money in the future to go and buy a Boxster, have at it. Out of those 3 cars, the Miata is the way to go. The S2000 looks great. It is fun to drive on the edge when you're revving it up, but it's a bit of a tiring car to drive. Hands down Miata for me. Hey Zach, love your show. Been considering hosting the live Watch This show. What do you think is a good starter watch for someone with a smaller wrist? Starter watch. I was looking at the Tudor Black Bay 58. Any other recommendations? So why is this coming in if you're watching this? I do a watch channel as well. I haven't been doing it for the last few weeks as I've been so busy. But yeah, my other channel is called Watch This. I would say that, yeah, the Tudor Black Bay 58 is like the perfect watch. If you're going to go sort of entry level premium, you might also want to look at, if you can afford a Rolex, I would look at a Datejust, or if you can't afford a Datejust, then look at an Oyster Perpetual 36 millimeter. By the way, they also have a Tudor 36 millimeter with the snowflake hands. That's another good one to look at. But anyway, back to cars. John Smith, turbo versus V6. What is your preference? Well, I got to tell you, if you're looking at a naturally aspirated V6 engine versus a turbo, the turbo is more tractable, meaning you get much more bottom and mid torque through the rev range than you do with a V6. V6, when they're naturally aspirated, they have peaky torque. They get good torque off the bottom because of the displacement. Say it's a 3.5 liter engine, but in the mid rev range, that's where turbochargers win. So, you know, there's a lot of people just think that turbo 4-cylinders are voodoo. They've been out a long time now. A lot of them have become really quite reliable. So yeah, if it was me and I was buying a brand new car, I would have no hesitation getting a turbo 4-cylinder. Shane says, would you buy a 16 CRV Touring or a 17 CRV LX? It comes down to your price. What can you afford? If you can afford a newer one, get the newer one. Daniel says, what's your take on the Jeep Gladiator? hot as hell. This thing is going to sell like crazy. I don't need a Jeep Gladiator, but man, I want one. It is so cool. It doesn't have a big box. That's the thing. But a lot of the people that are going to buy this, they don't give a crap because they want to be seen to be driving a Jeep. So how cool is a Jeep Wrangler to start with? Nobody really needs a Jeep Wrangler. Anybody that goes off-roading in an old, ancient Jeep Wrangler, and they fix it up. Jeeps are cool. They have something about them that people like. Then you add on a pickup truck bed, and you add on, you can take the roof and the doors off. It is so cool. I would love to own one. And here's the thing, and I've mentioned it in my reviews, and it's worth mentioning it again. I do work for Canadian Black Book, okay? They're the value guide here in Canada. In the United States, there's Blue Book. In Canada, it's Black Book. The vehicle with the #1 resale value for 8 years in a row is the Jeep Wrangler. So here's the thing. If you went and you bought a Jeep Gladiator and you kept it for 3 or 4 years, it's going to hold its value. Same with Tacoma. You know, Toyota Tacomas hold their value incredibly well. I know this because I own a used Tacoma. So yeah, I think the Gladiator is fantastic. I would love to have one, but I'm not willing to spend it on it. It would be a toy for me, but yeah, it's so cool. Charlottetown Spud, it is hard for you to give a fair review on a low-end car after driving so many high-end cars. For example, is it easy to be hard on a Civic after driving a BMW? No. And here's one thing. This is the God's honest truth, and I've said this many times, not maybe so much on camera, but when people ask me, what's the best car you've driven and all this kind of stuff, and I say the entry-level, least expensive cars that you can go and buy under $20,000 are so good these days. They are so good. You get power in many of them. You get efficiency. You get interiors that would have been out of a luxury car 20 years ago. You get features that you would typically get in a luxury car 15 years ago. Backup cameras, Bluetooth streaming audio, USB, Apple, Android, big sunroofs, folding outside mirror, forward collision warning, autonomous braking. You think about what you get in a base model car these days, it's absolutely unbelievable. Entry-level cars often are more fun to drive, you know. They are a little bit underpowered, some of them, but if you learn how to drive and get the most out of them, they're great. So no, it's not hard. It's, here's the thing. When you're reviewing a car, your job as the reviewer is not to compare it to a BMW. If you're driving a Civic, you got to compare it to a Corolla or a Mazda 3 or a Golf. That's the job. And a lot of it comes down to experience, okay? So the #1 thing I say to young people that are getting started in this business is the #1 thing you need to have is perspective and a sense of history of where we've come and where we're going. And so, yeah, you can drive a Civic today and you think about a base Civic. When I started doing this in the 90s, didn't even have a right mirror, didn't have a windshield wiper on the back. You had to pay extra for a right mirror and a windshield wiper on the back for the hatchback. You didn't get heated seats. You got an AM/FM radio if you were lucky. Nothing in it. Wind down windows. Look how far we've come. There you go. What's your take on the Telluride? I think the Telluride, I've only sat in it and looked at it. I haven't driven it yet. The ride and drive event is going to be closer to the summer. It's, you know, the pricing is right around $44,000 to start with in the Canadian market. I think it looks fantastic. I really do. And I think that the Hyundai equivalent is great looking as well. I think these two SUVs are going to do incredibly well for these brands. Jude said, grabbed an X1 after watching your review. Loving it. That's great. The X1's a great product. You know, being in Germany all week and seeing, you know, all the German cars on the road, I started to think to myself, how boring would it be to live in Germany where all you basically drive are German cars? Like, it's a very small market. So you got Volkswagen, Audi, Mercedes, and BMW. That's it, and Porsche, and that's it. And everybody drives a gray, a black, a white car. It's like so dull. And you can see why a car like the Mustang GT, I saw a couple of them when I was in Munich, really stand out. Bright orange, American muscle, big long hood, 460 horsepower. Just so different. I love German cars, but if I was in Germany, I don't know, I get a little bored of it. What do you think of the new BMW 3 Series? Haven't driven it yet. I've got the emails into BMW. When I get a chance, I'll let you know. BMW made an interesting proposition with this new 3 Series, though. They were adamant in the description of when they had the ride and drive in Spain, I believe, a few months ago, or Portugal, one of the two, offering more value. And that's something that I think is encouraging for a lot of people, that they're offering more value in their car. Why? Why is BMW offering more value in their car? Who's winning the sales battle in the compact luxury sedan space? Tesla. Get a Golf. Sorry, somebody's replying something. Par says, hey Zach, your thoughts on the 19 Corolla XSE versus 19 Civic Touring? Fuel economy and comfort and driving assist features. Well, these are very different cars, okay? I just want to tell you right now. Yes, they both have 4-cylinder engines. Yes, they both have continuously variable transmissions. But the big differentiator is the fact that the Civic has independent rear suspension. It is more of a driver's car. If you don't give a damn about that, they're both fine products, okay? Fuel economy, they're going to be very similar. Comfort and driving assist features, they're both going to have forward collision warning, autonomous braking, lane keep assist, all of that kind of stuff. If you look at the spreadsheet of Civic and Corolla, they're going to match up pretty closely. There might be some things off the top of my head that one has an advantage of over the other. One would be Corolla has LED headlamps, but if you're getting the Civic Touring, it has LED headlamps. So if you're not in a rush, the brand new Civic is coming, and it's built on the same platform that they use for the Civic hatchback, and it comes with independent rear suspension. So if you're not in a rush, wait for that car. It's going to be coming later. I just got an email from Toyota Canada. The ride and drive, when I get a chance to drive it, will be in May. So that's roughly when the cars will be arriving, late May, early June. If you're not in a rush, wait for that new model to come. Much better interior, neat looking car. I would wait for that. Sky says, how is the reliability of Volkswagen these days? This is a question I put to Thomas Tetzlaff from Volkswagen Canada on a regular basis. And his answer to me is, what they look at is their internal spend on warranty work. And he says, if you look at a graph of what they spend, over 10 years of Volkswagen cars, the amount that they spend to fix cars has continued to go down, meaning that they're repairing less of them. So they're getting it right first. Now, if you look at statistics, if you look at J.D. Power and Consumer Reports and others, Volkswagen doesn't score as high as other brands. But how they do score well is in terms of driver satisfaction. So it's one of those things. It's a real interesting sort of formula that you have to put into owning a car. So a lot of people love driving Minis. Minis are not nearly as reliable as other cars, but people like them, so they're willing to put up with them. People love Range Rovers. They buy one after another after another. Range Rover certainly isn't anywhere near the top of the ladder when it comes to reliability, but people that own them love them. So Mini owners, Range Rover owners, Volkswagen owners, they're willing to put up with a little bit more of a headache because they value the ride much more. Are you one of those people? Are you willing to put up with a little bit more, possibly in terms of maintenance and taking it to the dealer? That's what you have to figure out. But if you look at just sheer numbers, they are getting better. Jody says, what do you think of an S5 Sportback for a family, one baby versus an SQ5? I got to tell you, I think if you've got a baby, you've got car seats, you've got strollers, you've got diaper bags, SQ5. I mean, I had an A7, which is bigger than a Sportback S5. But, rear-facing car seats with a baby, I think you're better with an SQ5. Jude Dempsey says, have you tried the new A-Class? No, but I just drove the CLA. The review's coming out a week Wednesday. I wasn't able to go to the A-Class review. Where was I? I was somewhere else. I couldn't go. Joshua says, is there a big difference when it comes to all-wheel drive? I was looking between the Subaru Impreza and the Mazda 3 all-wheel drive. Well, there are certainly differences. One, the interesting thing about the Mazda 3 all-wheel drive, like many, is it it decouples the rear wheels under light load. So driving along and you're not needing the traction to the rear wheels are free spinning. Now, the way that they have it is a clutch pack at the back, and when they sense a slip, they send torque to the rear wheels like almost instantaneously. The Subaru is more of a proactive system. It's more engaged. So if you're just looking at that now, would the average person be able to tell the difference? I suspect not. The fact you've got all-wheel drive, some of these sort of, engage and disengage systems are really sloppy, but most car brands are getting it better and better. They're keeping them, they have a little pump there, a little pressure pump that keeps it ready to go, and they can engage them quickly. So yeah, I don't think most people will be able to tell the difference. I would suspect the Subaru system is a little bit more engaged more often. Carl says, Zach, which one is better, a Q5, an X3, a GLC, or an RDX? These are all fantastic choices. There is no wrong answer. The X3 and the RDX are the newest. The GLC is the oldest, and the Q5 is probably going to be set for a refresh here as well. So GLC is going to be coming. GLB, so a slightly smaller version of the GLC is going to be introduced at the Shanghai show next week, where I'm going. By the way, somebody sent me a message on Instagram asking about the GLS. It's going to be shown in New York at the auto show at the end of the month. So lots of new products are coming and refreshes are due. There is really nothing wrong with any of these. I would say Q5 and the GLC are good all-rounders. The X3 would be probably one of the leaders when it comes to handling, but the RDX, for just sheer content and what you get for your dollar, is hard to beat based on the dollar value. But they're all excellent choices. You're barking up the right tree. You know what typically happens? When you get 2 or 3 cars, you go and you test drive them, you like them, you're not sure which one you want to get. A lot of it comes down to how much is it going to cost me a month? Most people are monthly payment driven, and it comes down to, well, this one has, the sunroof, and it's $25 less a month. That's the one I'm going to get. That often is the tiebreaker, which leads me nicely into Car Cost Canada. If you're shopping for a new car, you really do need to go and look at this. It's honestly the best way to find out if there's any rebates, incentives. You get to find out what the dealer paid for the car. That's powerful, powerful information. And you also get to see if there's any secret rebates or discounts that you're not aware of when you go into the dealership. So when you're doing that tiebreaker, which one's going to win based on price, you need to go and start doing your searches there. I think you can do 5 searches. The first search is free, and you can do batches of searches, and it's really inexpensive. It's a great way to save money. So all of these are great choices. Hey, Zach, looking at the Nissan Kicks, but somewhat concerned about the 125 horsepower engine. Is it dangerously underpowered if you need to overtake? Here's the interesting thing. I was more impressed with the Kicks than I was with the Qashqai. Qashqai's a good product. They did a good job with it. But I drove the Kicks and I was like, this is fun. This is a great little car. I enjoyed it. It's really cute. Now, if you're doing a lot of highway driving and you're worried about overtaking on the highway, might not be your top choice. This is a city urban runabout. The knock against the Kicks, it has a solid torsion beam rear suspension, and the suspension is calibrated to be quite firm to give it a little bit of that SUV feel, and it can be a little harsh over uneven pavement. So try that out. But for actually driving it, I was impressed with it. I thought it was pretty good. Is it dangerously underpowered? No. But it certainly isn't going to be the choice if you're passing 18-wheelers on a 2-lane highway every single day. It wouldn't be my choice. But it's more of a city car, not really a highway car. Jude Dempsey says, love the Q5 on my second. It is a great product. I mean, it's pretty much the all-rounder in the category. Have you had a chance to drive the Camaro or Corvette? Driven the Corvette, haven't had a chance to drive the Camaro. I was at the auto show recently and the PR people from GM were there. I said, you never put a fun car in their press fleet. You watch these reviews and read these magazines in the United States and they have every flavor of Camaro and Corvette. Unfortunately in Canada, they just don't put those cars on. But I'll try to get to it. What do you think of the 19 Equinox Premier with the turbo engine? If that's the 2-liter engine, it's excellent, by the way. I think a lot of people overlook the Chevy Equinox. It's a very good product. They did a good job. It's a great all-rounder. The 2-liter engine is fantastic. They have a 1.5, I believe, is the base engine. They have a 1.6 diesel. They have the 2-liter. But if you're thinking the 2-liter, I drove it. I thought it was fine. And I actually like the styling of the Equinox. And one thing, a colleague of mine from Quebec, Antoine Joubert, he's famous in Quebec. He's used to be the host of RPM, the TV show there. And I'm sure our French colleagues, my French speaking friends who are watching here from Quebec know Antoine. We were in Germany this week together, and we were talking about this and talking about the best infotainment systems in the industry. Chrysler or FCA with their Uconnect system, so simple and easy to use. And I mentioned General Motors vehicles and the Equinox as an example. He agreed with me 100%. He says, so easy, so well done, and a lot of people look past them. And in fact, General Motors has improved their quality so much in their cars. I have no problem, absolutely zero problem recommending an Equinox. Somebody is replying to the Polestar question. He says, I have a V90 wagon with a Polestar in it, and it really makes the throttle response just a little bit better. If you love driving, it makes a huge difference. That was my experience, as I said, with the S60. The T6 engine was great. It didn't wow me, though. I liked it, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Fatir says, what is the most fun car under $40,000 to use daily? A GTI, Civic Si, Focus ST, or a WRX? I think, I've been on record many, many times. Just go and get a GTI. You will never be disappointed with it. And if you want more power, if 300 plus horsepower isn't enough, get a Golf R. Yeah, and if you can get the Autobahn version at $36,000 with the LED headlamps, the bigger wheels, the upgraded system, the head unit on the inside, that's a great car. Do you have any favorite car movies that you can recommend, like Bullet or something? What's the one with the famous car chase in Europe? It's right on the tip of my tongue. I'm terrible at names. Give me a minute. Maybe you guys remember where they have the Audi S8 driving through, and what's his name? Robert De Niro's in the movie. What's the name of the movie? That's a great movie for car chases. It was in the 90s as well. Would you recommend a used Ford Escape about 1 or 2 years old? They lose a lot of value in the first year, can be well equipped for the price. Yeah, the advantage you have of getting an Escape is there are so many of them out there. And because of that, it affects their value. Now be prepared, because you're going to get a deal on it, but that depreciation doesn't stop when you have it. It continues, especially in light of the fact that Ford just this week, and Mike was in Michigan having a look at the new Ford Escape. Go and look at the video. It certainly is an upgrade. A lot of people don't like the design. I don't mind it. The big update is to the interior and to the size. It needs to be bigger, in my opinion. So go and look at that and see for yourself. When that one comes out, then it's going to continue to depreciate. The good thing about the Ford Escape, it's been around for a long time. It's a known entity. It's quite reliable. So yeah, if you're based just on price and value, there certainly is a lot of them to choose from. You should be able to get a good deal. Hi Zach, should I get a top trim mainstream SUV or just get a base model Acura? This is a really good exercise in going and driving them for yourself. Here's a perfect example. Honda Accord with the 2-liter turbocharged engine or an Acura TLX. In my opinion, Honda Accord all day long. I just think it's a better car. But the ILX over a top model Civic is maybe a better car because it has the dual clutch transmission. You have to go and try them for yourself. But sometimes there are some great entry-level cars fully loaded that are better than the premium equivalent. I'm trying to think of some others. That's one off the top of my head. I think the Honda Accord 2-liter turbo is a wonderful car, and you'd be probably better with that than the TLX. Hey Zach, I'm choosing between a Pilot and MDX. I like the drive of the MDX, but the Pilot has more updated interior. Any other alternatives you would recommend? Yeah, this is true. The one thing about the MDX is the dash needs to be updated. The Pilot has the simplified single screen, which I prefer, but the interior isn't the same. The drive isn't the same. The super handling all-wheel drive system in the MDX is calibrated differently than the same hardware is used in the Pilot. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. Those are two great choices. Another one is the Highlander. The Highlander is a great all-rounder. It's a Swiss Army knife too. Not going to be as engaging maybe as the Pilot to drive, but none of them really are at that place. The MDX is actually not bad. Here's the thing is, MDX is asking to use premium fuel and the Pilot is not. You lose 10 horsepower, but that's something to consider. Do you want to be pumping in more expensive fuel? Hey Zach, looking at a new Wrangler Rubicon, my concern is the engine. Should I get the tried and true V6 or the 2-liter turbo? Thoughts on those engines? I would get the V6. Now, if you're not in a rush, I would wait for the V6 3-liter turbo diesel. I think that would be the one to get with that low-end torque. But between those two engines, V6. I'm looking for a performance luxury sedan. I have driven the S5 and the BMW 340. I'm leaning towards the S5. A colleague suggests that I try the Stinger GT. What are your thoughts? I like the Stinger GT. I prefer the Genesis G70. If you're considering those three products, I think that the Genesis G70, bang for buck, is certainly the way to go. Now, as I mentioned just a moment ago, often when you're looking at these things, you're looking at the monthly payment, and what comes down to your lease payments or your monthly payments is the tiebreaker. The content you get for what it costs, and a big part of those lease payments are based on resale value. And that's one advantage that BMW and Audi have over Genesis or Kia with their Stinger, is the fact that they have a known resale value and they are very sharp on their leasing, which is a great way to go for a premium car like that. I think that the S5, I would look at the BMW, the 340, the Grand Coupe. That's the one that I would like. That inline 6-cylinder engine from BMW is one of the best on the market, but the S5 is a great car too. I would lean probably more towards the BMW. Thoughts on buying a used 2018 BMW X5 that was used as a service loaner by BMW dealership with 3,300 kilometers? I have zero issue with the car being used as a service loaner. What you want to find out is if it has had any accidents, okay? So you have to find out, has it ever been in for any, like, little dings in the door? They can take those out without painting it, but has it been in an accident? Other than that, I got zero issues with it. The good thing is you're going to save on the delivery charge. It's going to be a used vehicle, so now it qualifies for a CPO, a certified pre-owned warranty, with just 3,300 kilometers, meaning you're going to get basically the better part of 6 years of warranty coverage. You get to drive the car even for a day or two and ask them, say to them, I want to drive it overnight, take it home and drive it. They should be able to do that for you and really get to see if you like the car. The only issue I have, has it been in an accident? If you can, get a clarification on that, I got no issue on that. And you're going to save some money. And smart for asking, by the way, because it is a great way to go. And also, make sure, I think with the BMW has the maintenance included, so you don't have to worry. I was going to say, make sure you get a service done for free, but it is included with BMW. Would you buy a used Kia Stinger? Do you think they'll depreciate at the same rate as other Kia models? Probably hold up a little bit better. That's the big problem with these new brands. With Genesis and for Kia with the Stinger is their resale value, they just can't touch BMW, Audi, and Mercedes. They are so good at predicting their retail value 3 and 4 years out. That's the big question mark. That's jumping ahead on me here. We're getting close to the end. Oh, we're almost out of time anyway. I'll see if I can do one more. What is the safest family vehicle? Crash ratings don't compare across vehicle classes. I'm apt to think an XC90. Do you have any idea? One brand that continues to win, like Volvo is known for its crash safety. One brand that continues to win award after award for its crash safety worthiness is Subaru. So if you're considering a 3-row, the Ascent is a great product. That would be one. But yeah, you know, if you're considering a Volvo, you're going to be covered there. The one thing is that advantage that Volvo had years ago with being the safe brand, everybody's caught up. They're all making safe cars. They've all figured out how to come up with safe, not all of them, but most have come up with safe cars. They know how to do the crash test. They have the advanced safety features. But yeah, Volvo is one, Subaru is another. All right, I've run up against the clock. As I mentioned, no show next week. I'm leaving Saturday, going to China for the Shanghai Auto Show. I'll be back the following week. I think the Outlaws are coming for Easter. Anyway, I'll let you know. Hopefully I can do it the following week. But there you go. Thanks to everybody that has tuned in. Once again, follow along on Instagram and on Facebook. And that's all the time we have for this week. It's time for me to go and eat. I'll see you later. Have a great rest of your weekend.